Welcome to Top 5, a show where we count things down from number 5 all the way to number 1. This week on the show, we are just around the corner from a big holiday here in the United States. And we thought we're going to show up to the table this year with good stuff. Not Aunt Lorene's coleslaw, not your sister's, attempt at baking a cake. No, we're talking about the top 5 side dishes to bring to the big holiday. Matthew, what do you got for your number 5?
Well, my number 5, since I don't necessarily cook, is a side dish from one of my favorite restaurants here in town. I won't tell you the name, but it is the mascot of a Texas football team. And they have
the Stars?
Yes, the Stars.
The Dallas Stars?
Let's call them the Long Stars.
Okay.
Okay, so they have on their menu white cheddar stuffed mushrooms. Now, you may say, oh, well, it's a mushroom. It's just some sort of fun guy, much like myself. But what they stuff it with is like some cheese, and I think there's some sort of wine in there. You mix it all up. They've got some of like the cheddar. They've got, Parmesan and some crunchy stuff. I think panko or something. But oh my gosh, they're amazing. They are super awesome. And every time I go online and I say, hey, I want a bootleg menu item. I want you to tell me how to copy this item. I will look at it and it'll get down to step 17 or 18. And they're like, how to clean a mushroom. I'm like, I'm out. I will just order. So I will order from the restaurant and I will bring white cheddar stuffed mushrooms. They are so good, you guys.
You know the secret to cleaning a mushroom?
Tell me the secret.
Yeah, you just brush them off. You just get either a towel and you brush them off gently, or if you have a mushroom toothbrush, you can just use a toothbrush that you're not using anywhere else, and you just brush the dirt off. That's it. Don't run them underwater, because that's how you ruin a mushroom. Just brush them off and then get the dirt off, and they're fine.
You know why fungi grow so close together, don't you?
I have no idea.
There's not much room.
Anyway, Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 5?
My number 5 is something that is all the way down at 5, even though I really like it because I can't eat it anymore. I have some acid reflux issues, and this is a food that tends to cause acid reflux, which then gets pickled, which makes it like more acidic.
Mm-hmm.
So my number 5 is pickled red onions.
Oh, okay.
I used to just eat these like out of the jar when I was a kid. They are, they're tangy and they have some of that onion sharpness, but the pickling takes a lot of it. If you actually take a bite out of a raw onion,
yeah,
it's like actively abrasive. So like the pickling, I think either neutralizes that or it just like supersedes it in some way. And red onions aren't as sharp as other onions. I think the ones that I had are red onions. It's possible that they're like a different onion. And just that in Mexico, they call those red onions. So if you know, go to the Discord and tell me.
There you go. We do have a Discord. You can join absolutely for free. Link in the show notes. Go tell Rodrigo how you make your pickled onions.
Yeah.
My number 5 is one that I used to hate growing up. I didn't care for it. You threw some marshmallows on top and some brown sugar and you threw it in the oven and then you made everybody eat it. And I didn't think that it was very good. But then when I moved to the South, when I was in Atlanta, I was exposed to the good candied yams. And suddenly, yum, 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 these things are delicious. And I don't know, these didn't have the marshmallows on it, but certainly had the caramelized sugar and all the other goodies that you put into it. And just delicious. Just the thick sweet syrup on the yams, and super soft yams too. Like they've been baking for like 3 weeks or something. So they're super soft. Oh my goodness. Candied yams are delicious. They got to be done just right. I prefer the ones from the South. People in the North, I don't know if you know how to make candied yams, but what I've sampled so far, I don't know. Go to the Discord, find it, fight it out. Okay, we are into our number 4s. Matthew, what do you have for your number 4?
Well, as I mentioned, not so much with the cooking. So I said to myself, while I was, out there on the main thoroughfare, what else could I bring? And I thought about possibly the most bizarre but delicious thing that I've had at a restaurant. Let's say it rhymes with Krillies, but it is so good. They actually have added something that they call roasted street corn. Now, here's the thing. That is not really the definition because obviously, even though there may be a street near the Skrillies, it's not actually street corn. But it is like a grilled corn cob. And, it's covered with crema. It's covered with cheese. It's covered with cilantro. It's really, really just amazing. And I've actually had, there's a restaurant here in town that does elote, like a traditional, an actual authentic elote. And it's a very similar flavor profile. You got your paprika and your lime and your, I don't know if it's like cotija cheese or some other kind of cheese, but oh my gosh, it is so good. And it's impossible to eat without making a huge mess, which honestly is a plus. I feel like if there's children involved and I can help those children to make a mess, then I've actually healed the karma that young Matthew had to deal with, 30 and 40 years ago when I was getting yelled at for, possibly getting gravy all over the fixtures. So my number 4 is the roasted street, and I'm going to put an asterisk, corn, totally like, but not from the Skrillies.
Was Skrillex that guy that's like do 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 wow 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 wow?
Yeah, he's the one. I think he invented double X, what it's called.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 4?
My number 4 is nopales or nopalitos, which are prickly pears.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure these are also pickled most of the time. I like the ones that you just get out of the jar.
Yeah.
They are like slimy and weird, but I've eaten them my whole life, and they're actually relatively hard to find in the US. Some places will carry them, some places don't. Unlike something like tortillas and refried beans, you can't always find prickly pear in like the quote unquote Mexican or ethnic or world section of your supermarket.
International.
I mean, they got to make room for Pocky, and I like that too. So, so what this is sliced up prickly pears. And then they're, I'm pretty sure, pickled in some way or treated in some way with vinegar. And then you get them out of the can and they're all like slimy because, cactus slime. But that's part of the good part.
The gotta make room for Pocky, but I like them too. Sounds like a Jonathan Colton song. My number 4. This is something that used to be higher up on my list, but has moved down over the years. When I was a kid, I talk about going to my grandmother's house and just having these delicious rolls that she would bring out and put on the table. And then one day I discovered this package sitting on the kitchen table that said brown and serve rolls. And I was like, what's this? And my grandmother, rushed to hide it because she didn't want people to know that she just ran over to the Safeway to get a package of brown and serve rolls. But those are still really good. But either, my tastes have changed. That happens as you get older, or they just don't use the same ingredients that they used to, because they don't get as brown as they used to, as quickly as they used to. And there's something about the taste that just doesn't work. And I know it's simple yeast rolls, but maybe the yeast has changed over the years. But brown and serve rolls, still really good. A good thing to have on the table for your holiday meal.
I like how when we talk about how things have changed since we were young, the idea that our taste buds are the thing that changed never enters into it.
No, I just said that. I think my tastes have changed as I've gotten older. That's
But
exactly what I'm talking about.
Surely, if they brown differently, it's not just Steven's taste buds. Although he does have eye problems, so I guess
No,
that could also
that's
be
not
that.
it. It's definitely, I don't know. I would have to go back and find a package of brown and serve rolls from 1979 and compare that to a package today. And I bet you're seeing a lot of dyes and preservatives and GMOs.
Here's my conspiracy theory. They used to just give them a light coat of egg.
Oh yeah.
And they don't do that anymore because you could get salmonella because it would be raw eggs.
Yeah, well, we're going to get rid of the FDA, so that doesn't really matter anymore. So bring it back.
No.
Bring it back, manufacturers. As we get into our number 3. Matthew, what do you have for your number 3?
So it's interesting that Rodrigo's number 4 was vaguely slimy yet pickled. Because my number 3, vaguely slimy yet pickled. Now, Kansas, as you may know, is kind of a study in contrast. If you're listening and you've never been to Kansas, I want you to imagine a wheat field, 400 miles wide, 200 miles high. There's about 100 people in there, and 7 of them are named Junior. Now, that's not exactly like Kansas, but it'll give you a really good idea of what Kansas is like. And the part that I'm from tries really hard to be a city and a metropolitan area, but is also still the world's biggest small town. So we have a restaurant called Oriental Express. Now, Oriental Express serves Chinese food. It serves Japanese food. It serves Korean food. It serves a little bit of Vietnamese food. It serves basically anything that would be in the international aisle in the area that is sometimes labeled as Asia.
Do they sell Pocky? Do they sell those sodas with the marble in them?
They do actually sell those.
Those are good.
But here's the thing. They have an actual chef, a Japanese sushi chef, and he works there and he makes what is called taco sansai, which is basically octopus salad. So I want you to imagine pickled octopus chopped up. Now, in order to cook an octopus, you have to steam it for 11 years or else it's chewy as heck. And even after you steam it and then beat it with a hammer, it's still pretty chewy. But you take that, you've pickled it with some cucumbers and some little shoots of, the green stuff. And you mix it all together and you throw it together. Sometimes they put in a little bit of spiciness. I don't know if it's obviously not a sriracha, but something with a similar kind of flavor profile. And depending on who's actually mixing it, it can be kind of spicy or maybe a little too spicy, but it's never not good. And I really, really love just having a nice octopus salad as a side. And a bonus, if we were going to Thanksgiving with my wife's family, which we might do because my family, I don't talk to them. There's a good reason for that. They made me. Why would I? If I took this big bowl of octopus salad, I would get to take home a big bowl of octopus salad for me to eat. And so that right there, that's a big selling point.
Small Kansas trick. Whenever you go to a potluck, bring something that's slightly unusual and you'll get to just eat it while you're there and then take it home.
That's
something you love that will frighten.
When I was in charge of the chips, I would bring 1 bag of normal Lay's potato chips and 1 bag of sabritones, and I got to take home a bag of sabritones.
Yep.
See, that's brains right there.
Mm-hmm. All right, my number 3 is also very good. Doesn't require brains because it's super simple to make. It's kind of along the same lines as the candied yams. I am fine with carrots. I don't really have a problem with carrots unless they're overly cooked, overly boiled or overly steamed, and then they get a little bit too soft or too spongy tasting. The one exception to that is the maple glazed carrots. Again, just like the candied yams, you get a nice glaze on the carrots. They're nice and soft. They're warm at just the right temperature, and then they're sweet too. So you don't get that weird carroty taste that you've come to grow and respect your entire life, because if you don't respect it, it's going to come and get you in the middle of the night. But yeah, maple glazed carrots, my number 3 side dish for 2024.
My number three concludes the uh, first three things that I like, which I call the ones that I like because they're offensive. Like there's something about them that's like actually kind of nasty. Pickled red onions are very acidic. Nopales are slimy. And then my number three, biscuits, like KFC style biscuits, like dense, extremely salty biscuits.
Yeah.
It's like you have to have something to drink with them because if you just take a bite, they just I don't know. It's like they're just very dense and salty. I had one recently, and it was amazing. I don't know what it is, probably all the salt, but they taste really good. They're really dense, and yeah, they're traditionally a side dish, right? If you're having something like biscuits and gravy, I would say that the gravy very much overpowers anything the biscuits are doing, right? And it seeps into them or whatever. So you're not really getting that biscuit experience where it just completely drains any moisture out of your mouth on the first bite. But for some reason, I like that. So that's my number three.
Very good. Very good. All right. Now we are into our number twos. And Matthew, what do you have for your number two?
Number two. So, as for, well, this is the thing. As much as I am what I like to believe a relatively entertaining individual, I believe that I'm a little bit worldly, much like, Eastern Kansas. I try to seem cooler than I really am. But when you break it down, I was raised by a Depression grandmother. And you may ask, does that mean a woman who grew up in the Depression or a mean old lady who suffered from depression? And of course, the answer is yes. But she did make one thing when I was a child. Actually, she made a lot of wonderful things. My grandmother could cook. She would bake pies. She would make turkeys and chickens and things. And then, stuff happened. But she always had time to make a green bean. And the trick, I believe, to the green bean casserole that Grandma Mildred would make was she would sneak in soy sauce. Now, again, this is weird because, it's Kansas. It's the middle of nowhere. Where are you going to get soy sauce? Obviously, next to the Pocky. But the green bean casserole is basically mushroom soup, French cut green beans. And French cut just basically means floofy, probably going to choke you to death. And you cover the whole thing with dried, like fried onions. So crispy fried onions. And then you put it together. But she would put the soy sauce in there, and that would make the whole thing just very salty and good. It just gave it this perfect balance of, I believe they call it umami on the Food Network. I actually used to go to one of the local grocery stores because they had a meal for seniors. And you would go in and you'd show them your like senior card, and they'd be like, okay, you can get the $3.99 meal. And they would have green bean casserole and then fried Brussels sprouts. And I would get them and mix them together, and I would have a Brussels sprout green bean casserole, which is wonderful, but also would scare the heck out of the family. So just flat, normal green bean casserole covered with the crispy, crispy onions.
All right. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number two?
My number two is something that my family makes all the time. Like my mom and my sister and my sister-in-law. Now, anytime we sit down to eat, there's a very good chance that they have made a big bowl of guacamole for everybody to like dip their chips in or spread on whatever they're eating or whatever. I love guacamole. Guacamole is one of those things, one of those dishes that exist throughout Mexico and now the United States, and probably also any place where there's avocados. And different places make it differently. And you'll get, people will say like you can't, like don't put mayonnaise in your guacamole, and I agree with that, but that's because I don't like it generally when it has that, because I'm used to guacamole that doesn't have mayonnaise. So the super secret recipe for my family's guacamole is to not put a lot of salt. Use obviously avocados, fresh tomato, onion, cilantro, and a lot of lime. Like when you think, oh, I've definitely squeezed too many limes into this, squeeze 2 more limes in. And very little salt. We actually add very little salt because most of the time we're eating this with store-bought chips, and those things are mega salty already. So when you scoop your guacamole and eat it with the chip, you're going to get that salt that way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we love that stuff. Avocados are kind of expensive in the US. So I just assumed that my parents have like eliminated something else from the budget, like the college fund for my nephews, just to keep a daily amount of avocados that they eat.
All right. My number 2. Listen, there's nothing wrong with a baked potato. Baked potatoes can be tricky because you're either going to undercook it and it's going to be super hard in the middle and everyone's going to go home with a bellyache, or you overcook it and it's just a big crumbly mess with little to no flavor. But what if you cooked it, scooped out all the insides, made a mashed potato out of that, took those skins, packed it back in, and then baked it a second time with cheese on top? This is the fabled twice baked potato. And they are delicious.
Stop playing God, Stephen.
No. I
Man
can do this.
is not meant to have things so delicious.
If you want to go even further, you could take the leftovers the next day when they're cold, throw them into your air fryer for like 3 minutes, and have a thrice baked potato as a leftover. Wow. But let's be fair. There ain't going to be no leftovers if you have a twice baked potato as one of your side dishes. Those things are going to go like that. So twice baked potatoes. My number 2, coincidentally, twice 2. Yeah, there you go. All right, everyone. We are at our number 1 spot. What is the side dish everyone is anticipating that you're going to bring to your holiday dinner in 2024? Matthew, what you got?
Here's the deal. When it comes down to it, at the very base of things. Okay, well, let me put this in a way that my wife would explain it to you. Have you ever heard of a big red balloon?
Of course, who hasn't?
Okay. Now, have you ever heard of a red big balloon?
Of course, who hasn't?
Sounds wrong, though, doesn't it?
Sure.
Okay, so while I am, charming, charismatic, worldly, awesome, I believe on a basic level,
listen, major spoilers cannot verify those statements, so please treat them, with some skepticism.
That was hurtful.
Yeah. Well,
30 years. Happy
holidays. Happy holidays, Matthew.
Yeah.
Snopes up in here.
Yeah.
All right. When you break something down, there are some characteristics that come before others that are kind of above all. So the red balloon may be big, the red balloon may be small, but it is always red. And so when you take into account all the things that I am, a father, a husband, bon vivant, casual hero, all these things, you have to remember that at my very core, I am a fat guy. And so I love garlic bread. And I discovered with the release of the movie Scott Pilgrim in 2012 that bread makes you fat. But here's the thing. You may say garlic bread is for Italian food. Garlic bread goes with a pasta. Garlic bread goes with lasagna. Garlic bread, no. Throw that out. Just throw that out. Just ignore all those things that you just said to yourself because A, it's bread. B, it's garlic. Garlic bread is the perfect accoutrement to anything. You can have garlic bread with French fries. You could have garlic bread. You go to a barbecue. You have a hot dog. You can have some nice garlic bread. You stuff a turkey. you have some nice garlic bread. There is never a time. You have a crab salad. You have some deep fried octopus. Always room for garlic bread because A, it serves as a utensil. B, it's really, really amazing. And C, who doesn't love a good garlic bread? You can get one for like $1.99 at any grocery store. I'm sure you can. And if you don't cook it within 45 seconds, it will turn green and poison you. But that's not the point. The point is this. Scott Pilgrim didn't know that bread makes you fat. And if you ignore that fact, you can eat all the garlic bread you want.
All right, Rodrigo, what do you have for your number one?
My number one is something that I've also eaten my whole life. And as a kid, it always felt like I was getting away with something.
Mm-hmm.
And that is fried plantains.
Ooh, yum.
Fried plantains without powdered sugar or any sort of syrup or anything like that are actually naturally pretty sweet, right? If you've ever bitten into a plantain, I'm sure it was an unappealing experience because you just bit into the starch equivalent of a potato.
Yeah.
But when you fry it, all that starch turns into sugar. So I think. So I'm not a chemist, but
right.
Yeah. It's the starch to alcohol continuum. I technically starch to vinegar continuum, but you know what I mean.
Right.
So yes, I always felt like they'd be like, okay, well, here's the meal: is some sort of meat and some sort of rice and or beans and some fried plantains. And I was like, this is dessert, and I get to eat it, and then I get to have dessert afterwards. Like, you idiot. I'm getting away with something. But to this day, I love fried plantains. Again, when you go to a restaurant and have them, they really feel the need to like shush them up, but they don't need it.
Yeah.
If you just fried a plantain, and even, like if one side is like a little burnt, that doesn't make them bad. It's just slightly different eating experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that I haven't made too many batches in my time, but they're pretty forgiving too. If this is the first time you're making fried plantains, even though it's an unlikable experience, nothing's going to happen to you if you eat some raw amount of raw plantain. It's fine. So if you don't cook them all the way, that's fine. Just try not to completely carbonize them. So yeah, everybody, I guess if we had this idealized potluck, fried plantains is what I would bring.
Very cool.
I have a question. It's more of a semantic / nomenclatural question.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be that, as we've often mentioned, my Spanish is at about a 9th grade level.
Sure.
Plátanos are not the same as plantains, right?
Correct. So we call regular bananas, we call plátanos, right? Okay. And plantains, at least in Mexico, I don't know other places, we call plátano macho, which does kind of invoke this weird thing where like, because, you've seen plantains, they're like bigger and thicker.
Yeah, they are.
Like this idea that like those macho. Are male bananas. Yeah, those are male bananas, and like the ones that we normally eat are like the girl bananas, which is no, of course not. They're all fruits. They're actually all girls.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I went to a Brazilian barbecue place, and I cannot for the life of me tell you if it was a fried banana or a fried plantain. And when I asked, the answer was not really forthcoming.
Oh, fried plantain is a little, the best way that I can say it, maybe a little meatier than a regular banana.
Yeah.
It depends also how it was sliced. If it's sliced into little button sizes, as opposed to being sliced lengthwise, which is what I've typically seen fried plantains sliced lengthwise.
Yeah, like quartered.
No, like sliced it like a slice of bread lengthwise.
Oh, no, don't do that.
No, that's the fried plantain. Yeah,
that's how we usually do it. It makes for like uneven slices because a plantain is a rounded cylinder, but still.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that I had were like quartered vertically, So like you hold the banana up for scale and you cut it from tip to tail, and then you do it again. And then you slice that in half. So you get like spears.
Like a wedge, like a spear.
More like a wedge.
Yeah.
That was, I would say that was almost certainly a plantain.
Probably.
It seems
because
that
bananas fall apart a little bit easier than a plantain.
A banana would fall apart if it gets fried for too long.
Yeah.
So if it had like some char to it, almost certainly a plantain.
Mm-hmm.
That was really good though.
Yeah, they are. My number one, I didn't think was going to be on my number one ever until a Popeyes opened up here in town. And somehow they didn't place the rice and beans in my container, but instead they put the mac and cheese in. And I am someone who has historically despised mac and cheese, like hated mac and cheese with a passion. No flavor, no, it's just blah. It's like whether you grew up on institutionalized mac and cheese at your school, which is like the worst, or you've suffered through people in your household's attempt at making mac and cheese. Nobody in my household, of course, my current household, because they would know how to make it correctly. You just have a disdain for mac and cheese until I had the mac and cheese that they have at the Popeyes. And I don't know if they put any panko or something in there, but they have a little something crunchy in there as well. But throw in some Tabasco sauce, and mac and cheese with Tabasco sauce or Cholula or whatever that you want to put in there is a delicious combination that I would welcome at a holiday dinner.
Nice.
So there you go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. What are you going to bring to your dinner? Is it going to be lutefisk? I forget which of our listeners is from the Netherlands or the Norways and the place where the sun don't shine during the wintertime.
During the lox.
Yeah.
Wait, is lox? Lox isn't a side dish. Yeah, it's a side dish.
Yeah, lox could be
What are you
going to bring? As Rodrigo mentioned earlier, we have a Discord. Get over there. Share your top 5 side dishes. If you want to include the recipe, go right ahead. Everybody will be over there clicking and copying and pasting and writing them down and taking them to their next holiday dinner. Why? Because everybody loves a list. We will talk with you again soon.
This podcast is copyright 2024 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.